Hi, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Breath of the Wild.
On the PS4!
Breath of the Wild was, to no one's surprise, a phenomenal game, and in my opinion, it's a must-play for any Switch owner, or PC owner with a good enough PC, if you catch my drift. So when Breath of the Wild Sequel was surprisingly announced at E3 2019, many people, including myself, were incredibly excited. Sequels are just full of opportunities to improve on their predecessor. I don't think Breath of the Wild was bad by any means. It's a fantastic game, but like any game, it's not perfect. And there are things I wish the game could have done differently. So here's some changes I'd love to see in the currently unnamed sequel. I think in general, one thing that could make Breath of the Wild 2 much better would be giving you more variety when it comes to 100%ing the game. In Breath of the Wild, collecting things don't feel that rewarding. You do see a number on the counter go up, or a map completion number go up, but it doesn't feel really satisfying. I think having a sort of museum or research facility you could fill up with things you've collected would be really nice, and I think that it would add a lot to completing the game. One thing I loved about Breath of the Wild was Link's house and how you could display weapons and shields you've collected in there, even if just a few. I think having something like that, but on a much larger scale, would make collecting much more fun. I also think adding a recipe book would be a fantastic addition. I think it was a missed opportunity for the game to not track the recipes you've made. I guess my mindset is that there should be a greater emphasis on rewarding the player for each bit of progress they make. I felt like Breath of the Wild wasn't really good in this retrospect, at least when it came to 100%ing. Another thing I'd really love to see is a proper camera mode in the game for taking snapshots. While Breath of the Wild did feature a camera, it was not only super limited in what you could take pictures of, but it also put a really ugly filter over your pictures and shrunk them down. It wasn't a good method of taking pictures to share with anyone on whatever social media. Honestly, this wasn't a big deal when the game came out, but it ended up being so much more annoying when every game Nintendo put out after Breath of the Wild seemed to include a really in-depth camera mode. Every time I go back to Breath of the Wild, I expect there to be a camera option like in Mario Odyssey or Animal Crossing New Horizons. In general, I think there's a lot of places Breath of the Wild 2 could look to Nintendo's other recent first-party games for inspiration. I love to see an outfit roulette like Animal Crossing New Horizons had. It was a pain to having to open the menu and switch into every single individual piece of clothing. You couldn't even save outfits. I think also having an option to play whatever music you want, like in Mario Odyssey, would be fantastic. While I personally loved Breath of the Wild soundtrack, I know the much more somber arrangements weren't everyone's cup of tea. Giving players the option to listen to some of those fast-paced, high-energy songs whenever they want, I think would be a great idea. Of course, there's some parts of Breath of the Wild that were just straight up bad, or at least greatly disliked by most players. And I want to offer some solutions to those issues. First off is the weapon durability. While I don't think weapon durability was inherently bad, I do think Breath of the Wild went overboard with how quickly things break. The system incentivizes you to not want to use a powerful weapon you may have found, out of fear you might break it after a battle or two. And it's like, the issue is, changing it to make things break after a much longer period of time would mean the overworld wouldn't have as many weapons lying around. So it kinda sounds like there's no easy solution. However, I do have an idea, and I propose the idea of a blacksmith. Maybe he'd be at the sequel's equivalent of stables, and you could repair your broken tools by using other tools or maybe even ores that you found in the overworld. I think other weapons you find could also provide buffs when used to repair a weapon. That way finding weapons are still super rewarding, they serve a purpose other than just being another weapon to use, and you can use them to repair the weapons you want to use. Another issue in the game is climbing in rain. At first, this mechanic seems to fit perfectly in Breath of the Wild, and I do mean that. The game is all about Link versus the wild. You have to deal with being struck by lightning, slowly trekking through sand, freezing atop the mountains, etc. Slipping off the side of a cliff when it rains is just another one of those things. Except it's missing something that all of those have, and what those have is a solution to those problems. Link can get clothes and potions to protect him in the cold. He can get a seal to ride through the desert, and he can find non-metal weapons to carry with him when it storms. But there's nothing Link can do when it rains and he needs to climb, except wait. And I don't think making players sit and do something else, waiting for the rain to subside, is really a good game mechanic. There should simply be an elixir, or an item that Link can use to climb in the rain. If the player didn't prepare themselves enough, it should be on them. There should be a solution to this problem the game presents. But there simply isn't. And I know I'm beating a dead horse, but this mechanic is just really annoying. I just don't understand why Nintendo didn't think to fix this, especially in one of the many updates the game had.
What kind of crack were they smoking?
Of course, there's a bunch of other things that plenty of people brought up and are usually like the first things people say they want in Breath of the Wild 2, such as classic items like the hook shot or a playable Zelda, which I would love. So yeah, these are the things that I'd love to see in Breath of the Wild 2. And I also really hope that we get some more information soon. I know that we've been going through a pandemic right now, so I don't expect Nintendo to release this soon, but I just really want to know some more things about it, just so we can have some fun speculating. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I'm going to try to make some more videos soon, so if you liked it, please let me know, and I'll see you some other time.